Time to watch ABBA and preach. So yesterday I came onto the stream. Of course, all my videos are still demonetized that I've recently uploaded because YouTube takes forever to review for monetization, and it's Memorial Day weekend. So good luck, tough luck. Am I right? So anyway, I was just able to release my full reaction to Ethan Klein starting this whole drama, but then yesterday I was able to react to the original ABBA and Preach video. I was able to find it on like the Wayback Finder or something. Seems like they took it down themselves. It wasn't removed. I don't really know why. It was a little chaotic, but overall, I mean, it was pretty rough on Ethan. For Ethan, I would say, to be honest with you. I'd say that it kind of made him look like a bit of a silly goose, a little silly boy. And it made him look kind of bad. I know a lot of it was stuff that he had happened in his past that he says he apologized for, but it's still pretty rough. It's a lot worse than I thought. I think a lot worse than I've ever done, too. So, maybe that's just the shock of me seeing that stuff for the first time. Either way, this is their, I guess, revised video that they uploaded. And it's called Imperfect Allies or Enemies. ABBA and Preach are right-wing bigots. H3H3. All right. Let's see what the smoke is. Let's see what smoke they got.
Live stream that they, because I feel like with everything that's happening and a lot of the dumb conversations that are happening, I thought there was one thing that was really interesting to me.
What?
During that live stream that they did,
I wonder if they're gonna actually react, they mentioned why they removed their other video.
one thing that they said that
Who's they?
Ethan Klein and his wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Whatever.
Said wife Hassan.
They said something. They said, "Oh, look at these centrists," and they went air quotes.
They're centrists, you know?
Yeah, and we know what that means.
Kind of. Like I said,
I love the this idea that if you're some kind of like somebody in the center, that you're inherently like a bad person that's grifting, because that's what they're trying to say by centrist. Like, listen, there are people, like there are some people who are fence sitters. Not to call anybody out, Boogie 2988, but some people who are like desperately try to sit on the line, and their goal is to not offend anybody. That's cringe. Just be apolitical. If you don't want to offend anybody and you're just like, I can see where, and sometimes that will happen, of course. Anybody should have once in a while have a centrist take. I mean, like, we're all normal human beings, so like, But if that's like your desire to that's stupid, because then you're just like, just be apolitical. Like, that's okay. I know nowadays you're not really allowed to be apolitical, but just be apolitical if you're going to be like center. As far as ABBA and Preach, again, there's some stuff that I disagree with, but like, I don't know. It's so weird that everybody instantly jumps to pandering. Like, what if they just have a difference in opinion? It's wild. What a world, huh? It's so weird, and it's just so like obnoxiously dismissive to just constantly write anybody off that's not like far left or very left as pandering in some capacity, because then this is what you're doing. You're just appealing to your audience, and that's not productive. Wouldn't you want to like appeal to ABBA and Preach's audience? Wouldn't you want? Isn't that the point? Isn't the point to be like, oh, I'm going to engage with ABBA and Preach. Let me see if I can get a couple of their fans to say, interesting, Mr. Klein. Mr. and Miss. Well, is it Mr. and Mrs. Klein or Abi Hassan? What's Hassan's last name? I don't even know. Hassan Abi? Is Abi his last name? I don't know. You get the joke.
know enough about them.
Right? Which is essentially like their way of being like, we know what that means. So that's what they said, right? Which is their way of saying like, we're like alt-right, right-wingers.
It's not salt. No, I think it means that the word centrists are viewed like people that are not solid and not flip-flop.
That's not how they meant it.
No, I think Abba's right, but also like that is the bad type of centrist, the flip floppers.
When they say centrist like this with
that's what you're saying.
They're trying to say they're not actually
because I've heard Hassan say this. What they're saying is they're like, oh, I understand, I understand why people want healthcare, but I also understand why you wouldn't want gay people to have rights. That's the centrist take. Would be for Hassan is like, oh, you're a centrist. Oh, trans people are cool, but they shouldn't have rights. Like that would be what he would consider a centrist take. Obviously, trans people are valid. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. Gay people are valid. Gay and trans people, some of them, they're sexy. Some of them aren't, just like the rest of us. Me personally, I look pretty rough because I didn't cut my hair. Jesus. That's crazy. That's wild, brother.
Centrist.
Piker. Wow. Yeah, his last name is Piker. Wow, incredible stuff. Who would have thought? Wow, that's probably why they call him Hassan Piker, huh? Wow, incredible.
We're right. Yeah. You're right.
I just noticed this. The irony of all this whole thing is that politically speaking, if we're being like just straight, we have way more in common with these two people than we would with anyone on the right. Right?
Probably.
If you were to ask us on all our policies, you'd be like, yo, we're for socialized healthcare.
Yeah.
I'll speak for me. Socialized healthcare.
Yeah.
I'm for taxation for social programs.
Yes.
I'm for unions. I'm for strong labor laws. I'm for immigration that allows people to come in reasonably. You
Fair enough. We don't want too many Abbots in here. I'm just kidding.
know, so on a lot of the major core, I'm for public funding.
But lots of preaches, okay? I like preach. They're both fine. I'm just busting chops.
For education that's very strong. I believe in a lot of socialization for society to be cohesive.
Sure,
you may
sure,
disagree,
sure.
that's okay. We don't come to this channel to all agree on one thing. But this is something I've noticed since my early 20s. You can be left-leaning in all the most important categories. And these people be like, oh my God, culture war. It's all the people ever talk about. Why is this obsession with culture war? But then if you say one thing like, yo, I don't think trans women should be in women's sports. Yo, look at this right-wing conservative bigot.
That's true. That is Hassan's take. But, like, unfortunately, listen, trans people are great. I mean, they're fine. They're like the rest of us. But it's such an unfortunate situation, you know, because nobody's trying to become trans to win a sport or whatever. But unfortunately, there does seem to be data, at least if you go through male puberty, it says, like, hey, you're gonna have an advantage. That's what all the data says. Nobody's trying to grift for more money, but it's an important conversation to have. You know, trans women are women, trans men are men, and it doesn't matter at all until you get to the point of like sports and dating, right? Like obviously, like a trans woman or a trans man being like it doesn't matter. Like I'm walking past you on the street, I don't need to know what's under your clothing. But you know, it's just unfortunate, and yeah, I don't think it's transphobic. I think it's nuanced. That's it.
Hold on, what?
The minute you go on one thing, it doesn't have to be on that topic specifically, but if you go on one thing, no matter what the thing is,
Yeah. When they say stuff like that, do you realize that most of the people who are black who voted Democrat align with exactly what I'm saying?
yeah.
Oh, probably.
Are they also all right-wing operatives?
No, they're more conservative though. I mean, which is fine. A lot of people tend to be a bit more conservative than people think. Even Democrats, like Democrat Party, is not necessarily a super left-wing party. Like it's for the most part, Republicans are pretty far right now, and Democrats are from anywhere from being more center left to being like a bit left wing. You know, so.
Oh, well, you know what? Me personally, I think there's some ways in which feminism has worked against women's interests. You right-wing Like, bro, did I
Oh, in what way? I'm curious about what he means by that.
ever say that I wasn't pro-choice? Did I ever say like on the important stuff? But we can't just disagree. And I noticed that, I mean, this could be true for everyone, but I noticed as someone who leads left, people look at you, it's not that you're an imperfect ally. You're just an enemy. The moment
Yeah.
you disagree, you're not like an ally who I disagree with. You're not like this person on the same team who we just have a different vision.
That's an interesting point though, because to the conversation about Hogwarts Legacy, there's a lot of trans people. From what I saw, the loudest trans voice was, from an activist perspective, was like, you're not transphobic at all if you like Hogwarts Legacy, but it's going to impact your allyship, right? You're an imperfect ally. And when they said that basically to Hassan, he had a fucking meltdown because he can't cope with that. He's like, I know better than you. It's like, relax. Everybody has their perspectives. You know, it's okay. But there's a lot of othering on the left. I wonder if it's because they, you know, left people, for the most part, like leftists, like on the most part, like if you're more left leaning, like you kind of won the culture war, so to speak. You know, and what else is there to fight about? You know, two people, but we both agree gay people are valid. Oh, cool. You know what I mean? And then what else you got to fight about? What are you going to fight about now? I don't know. You know, the pride flag? I don't know.
To some degree.
I don't know.
You're an enemy.
Can I just listen? I know this might be a little sensitive. I just have to say that. I just have to say this. Okay? People are always like, oh, the gay pride flag, like blah blah blah. No offense. You know, this is gonna be, you know what's gayer than the gay pride flag? It's the thin blue line flag. Okay? I mean, that's just a weird flag to have. Like you're just jerking off police. I find that so weird. And the most cringe thing is police officers who carry their own flag around. They have a thin blue line flag because like that's just announcing to the world that you love your job. I mean, that's like if I went to I worked for fucking Target and I walked around with a Target. I love my job. That's just so cringe to me. Who loves their job? Sorry for using gay as a pejorative, guys. I'm so sorry. But that thought just came to me, and I just don't understand it. It's like so weird. Imagine me walking around a YouTube play. I love my job. No, absolutely not. It's weird.
Immediately.
Yeah, you're gonna be in a whole ass box.
No,
There's no nuance. It's funny how like I counted. All right, the other day I was looking at my cell phone, and there are more than 10 applications on my phones that are meant for communication.
Okay.
Over 10.
Okay.
That's without the text messaging and the phone calls, which that's what a phone is meant for.
Yeah.
And we have all this technology to communicate, but we don't listen. We don't have listen. We don't have nuance for nothing. It's like nuance is the enemy of my cause. And the minute you go against what I do or death to you all, and you're on the other side, and we can't just be like us.
Yeah, that's true. Like even I posted that video about like the dove thing. And there's like those guys, like those young internet boys that were melting down because they were adding inclusivity in video games. And I was like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's whatever. And then of course some people in the comments are like they're a little more upset. And they going off like the rails about how it's promoting fatness, which is not. If you want to get into a real deep conversation, it's more about the way that men and women feel like they want to be represented in the media. Men tend to like to look at something that is complete. I would say like, oh, or like look at that big, strong masculine that destroys things. Like I want to be that. I feel like the male fantasy appeals to like becoming the best version of yourself. Whereas for a lot of women, I think that the fantasy is like, oh, I want people to accept me for who I am. And I think that comes from this kind of historical idea. Maybe some is biological, but some of it's social, of this idea that like men are not born with value, but they earn value as they age, and women are born with their value and lose it as they age. And so that means for men, that appeals to them like, oh, I want to be that guy that gains the most value. I identify with Kratos or something. Whereas women are like, okay, I'm born with my inherent value. I want to maintain that. I want people to think that I'm very good looking. It's just kind of a theory. It's a little all over the place, but I was like, I've been thinking about it a lot because my wife and I on our podcast, Rob and Dan, our most recent one, we had this conversation in that podcast about like the reason why female superheroes miss the mark. And I was like, what if it's because from the woman's perspective, a lot of woman characters, they want to be accepted for who they are. And so like that, so they don't go through the hero's journey because they're already perfect. I might just be babbling and reaching. But it's just something I'd thought about. My wife and I had a really good conversation. I'll link it in the description of the video. But
excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
You can't even question, and that's crazy because as I was growing up, me being able to learn shit or be able to grow was me being able to question stuff. I remember when I was in school, they used to tell me, "Oh, there's no stupid questions." And then at some point, the more you grow, the more they assume that you're supposed to be like everybody else. Right? Yeah. Everybody wants to. Those same people are saying, they're saying, "Oh, don't be afraid to be yourself." But then if you're someone else, or you just have a question, not like them.
It seems like so far the reason they removed the other one is because they just wanted something that was a little more like cohesive and like intelligent. And I'm not saying that last video was unintelligent, but it was really just like a back and forth shit throwing match. And so this one is like, hey, you know what? Let's have like an intelligent conversation. So I can respect it. It seems like that would be the reason why they removed it.
They fucking dish you out. Yeah. They're the same people that do that, and that's just a bit crazy to me. You cannot question. You cannot have nuance. I'm not saying that you're going to be canceled. I'm not going to that side. It's just that they are going to put you on the side of the enemy right away, and that's not really what happens. You might have some questions, and the funny thing is, what I remember, I'm not saying that's exactly what you do, but is that in that direction, the people that I thought that do not have a say in whatever they want to say are people that are under a dictatorship. And you dictate where the group goes and nobody else can question. It leans into the same way. I'm not saying that's what you're inherently doing and you're exactly that and you're a tyrant. And I'm not saying that you're any kind of tyrant like anyone that we had in history.
Remember Bernie Sanders when he was on the campaign trail? Hey,
shout out to Bernie Sanders. Shout out. I'm starting to like the guy. I actually have always liked him. Not a big fan of his policies. It's starting to change my mind as I get older. You know, do you think right-leaning people hate LGBTQ because they genuinely think it's harmful, or do you think it's been based on values of religion? All values in religion. They think it's weird, and they don't get it, and they don't really respect. I think that a lot of conservatives don't. Well, let me be clear. I have a conservative family. None of them are homophobic. They are all just like, hey, you do you. You know what I mean? And I respect that. It's not all religious people. It's a lot of. It's really just. I would say maybe more in those southern states and whatnot. But yeah,
He was doing this rally, and then these two black women came on and stole the mic, and he sat there in the corner cucked, and everybody knew that shit was wrong, but nobody said no shit. Why?
Yeah.
Because they took over and they co-opted the direction of this thing. Even Bernie, on his own campaign trail, had his mic at his time swollen, and pretty much, I think for me, this really solidified how I viewed him.
Yeah, and the
Because
crazy,
I'm like, bro, you ain't got
they would have called him a racist if he had stopped them from speaking. Huh?
no fucking spine. How you gonna lead a country? You get cut by two random cities.
you ain't got security.
Yo, that shit was weird.
And the thing that happened is that out of all the people that you could have cut off, you chose Bernie.
Because he's an imperfect ally. Nope, he's an enemy. Again, because he didn't perfectly
Okay,
align
now I
with
see
what
what
these
it is.
sisters thought a political party should do, he was the enemy. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. And so, to be fair,
Maybe them and Bernie could start a podcast called Frenemies. Feel the burn.
everyone else, we probably play a large part in that because we criticize this or we criticize that. And sometimes I think we even criticize things I see on the left a lot more. But that's just because that's what I belong to. And that's what I'm around way more often. And in my personal life,
Sure, yeah.
my lived experience,
I
that's
get
what
that.
affects my day-to-day life. I live in a very liberal city. So
I'm just trying to think why, because Ab and Preach do talk more about like left wing stuff. They criticize more like silly left wingers, and I think that that's true, but not always. I mean, not always. It's like because they have a lot. I mean, this Manosphere is right wing, so they actually do criticize a lot of right wing stuff. A lot of Manosphere guys, and then like pretty much a lot of the other stuff is like not anti left wing, but like making fun of some people. And I'm trying to think why, and I feel like it's because when there are crazy left wingers, we don't necessarily politicize that. Like you got some crazy dude that's like, oh, it's fat phobic if you sleep with fat people, or if you don't sleep with fat people. It's like, that's crazy. That's not even a political conversation anymore. But then a lot of the conversations of like criticizing of religious people, or excuse me, conservative people, is like this whole loaded topic, especially since most of it's just like gay equals bad, you know? So maybe that's why they don't talk about. I mean, I guess it's kind of, there's really nothing political. Or rather, like, it's pretty much all left-wing shit is, like, non-political stuff to criticize. Like, hoes be lying, you know? You know, make a video about that. But then the other thing is, like, oh my God, something crazy. But then they talked about Steven Crowder and stuff. So, you know, maybe it's not even necessarily fair to say that they necessarily pander to the right. Well, it's not fair to say that they pander. But, like, what else would you talk about? I just remember when I was on TikTok and stuff, like, I wouldn't intentionally do anything. I mean, I just talked about whatever the fuck I wanted to talk about. And then people still thought I was conservative. Have I been manipulated by the fucking woke leftist mob, dude? Am I having an existential crisis live on stream right now? What do I do with myself? Have I been somewhat manipulated by people? You know what I mean? Like, has the social narrative fucking rotted my mind? I'm not even kidding. Like, am I a little bit brain rotted by like some of the social? Like, I know I make some edgy jokes, and that's fair to criticize. But like, was I a little manipulated by the leftist mob? Have I let Hassan and Ethan? Have I let them put too much? Fuck, scared me. Something happened. Have I been letting them get into my mind too much? Have I been brain rotting myself by watching too much like iDubbbz and Ethan content? I'd like iDubbbz, by the way. He seems like a nice guy. Not so much Ethan, man. Am I catching a little too much woke? You know what I mean? Not super. I'm mostly good. I think maybe a little bit of it's getting a little maybe sometimes. Okay.
when I have issues with certain governmental policies or the way that things are ran, it's generally with left-leaning people. It's not right-wing folks who are fucking up my life on a day-to-day basis. So that's how I play it on a media standpoint, you know? I gotta own my own part in this shit. But yeah, it just peeves me. It peeves me that someone could just look at you as like, oh, you're not part of us. It's like, who do you get to decide?
Yeah.
My values say otherwise.
Yeah.
The things I vote for, the things I believe in say otherwise. The kind of stuff I donate to,
What do you think I'm too woke on sometimes? I'm just curious.
the kind of programs I'm involved in say otherwise.
Absolutely.
Why does your fucking non-important issue of trans women in sports get to dictate what virtues belong to the left or not? You get
That's fair. I mean, like, it's not a super important issue. Most trans people don't even care about that topic. Most of them just want gender-friendly care. So
what I'm trying to say?
get you.
So it's just like, and you know what the craziest part about this whole thing is? People think that just because I say I don't think trans women shouldn't be in women's sports, that I'm somehow like anti-trans. Yo, whatever pronouns they want, give it to them. Whatever Medicaid or like trans-affirming care they need, give it to them. That's fine. I got no issue with it. And that is already more progressive than the vast majority of the population when it comes to the trans issues, right?
Definitely.
But because I'm not on board,
I think that's like the perfect thing to have. Like, hey, let's have like some kind of socialized healthcare and give trans people access to gender-affirming care as long as they're properly diagnosed. You know,
with the
I'm turning into non-binary gut, maybe.
trans women in sports, or I'm not on board with the whole idea that if you're not open to dating trans people, you're transphobic, then I'm already not an ally or whatever. I'm the enemy.
I see why you want to date a trans person. Like, whatever. I mean, you could probably have a deep conversation of maybe you not wanting to date a trans woman is because maybe there is a little bit of internalized homophobia. And I say homophobia because you would perceive them as a man. But then the conversation is like, not even to be rude, is that okay? As long as you're respectful, you know? You're like, yeah, I don't want to date you. It's not my preference. Maybe part of you does see them as a man. And I would say that's wrong. But, like, does that make you a horrible person? If you're still like, oh, I respect you. Like, you're a good person. You know what I mean? Like, what does it really matter? As long as you're respectful. Because that's, like, an interesting conversation to have. But then to shame people, like, oh, no, you're just some kind of a bigot if you wouldn't date a trans person. Like, why? Oh, you leave more cute girl pee-pee for me. No, it doesn't. I'm married. We have to remember. We have to make. All of us have to make sure we honor our vows to my wife, our wife, of course. We have to make sure that we honor our vows to my wife, of course. And I'm sorry about that, everybody. I think that we should all, everybody, if you could please lock hands, and we could begin our prayer. Thank you. Holy, holy, holy Lord. I need subtitles. And earth is full of your glory. Hosanna in the highest. Blessed. I got it. Is the who? The Lord. Beautiful stuff. Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest. Peace be with you, and also with you. I'm not changing with the times, bitch.
I'm okay with not being an ally, but do I have to be an enemy? It just seems like it's very extreme rhetoric and ineffective for diplomacy.
Everybody that are saying that are for that.
Where's Abba?
Oftentimes people that do not, it does not affect them. It does not affect them, or they've never been in that environment. You've never been in that environment, so you won't know. But whatever, it is what it is. You can't go about life like that, you know? Whenever we pinpoint some things that could be better, it doesn't mean that we inherently...
Oh, dude, look, they have their YouTube thing in the back. These guys are like cringe cops that fly the Blue Lives Matter flag. Ew, cringe. What is this, dude? Loser. What are you doing, dude? What are you proud? Are you going to go work at Target? You going to wave around a Target flag? Walk around a McDonald's flag? I mean, I walk around with a lot of McDonald's bags in my car because, you know, I'm a collector, not because I go there a lot.
Hate the things, or we hate that group or anything like that. You know, it's to do better. In my relationship, if every time my girlfriend was saying something about how I do things and be like, oh, you don't love me anymore, like a little... No, she wants me to do better, so I do better. Do this, do that. Hey, it would be better if you do this.
Sometimes I tell my wife she doesn't love me anymore, just to try to gaslight her, and it doesn't usually work.
I do the same thing. Hey, you know what? You did that.
But she'll say it to me. I'll be like, all right, I'll do whatever she wants.
Drop the ball on that, whatever, let's do better, right? It's not because I hate her. It's not because she hates me. That's how we grow. That's how I'm able to do better. If I look at my parents and we have conversations, same thing.
We gotta. Somebody has to draw a creek goblin. Somebody that creaks for when they when Apple walks away.
They say some wild shit, I catch them. If I say some wild shit, they catch me. Same thing in my surroundings. Same thing in my friends. I wouldn't want anybody in my friends that I go on some wild shit and they don't catch me. Hey, yo, bro.
True. Fair enough.
That shit you did the other day, that's kind of wild. Accountability doesn't mean I hate the person. Doesn't mean the person hates me. But that's how we're able to grow.
Also,
True.
It helps. We said about growth. It's true. Like when you guys silence this kind of dissidence and you just call it transphobia, you don't actually strengthen your arguments.
Nah.
Like a lot of the people who are doing this advocacy.
You know, all this could have been evaded if Ethan had just been like, "Hey, I've been preached. Do you guys want to come on and have a chat?"
for like trans women in sports, either bring up folk.
That's what they should have done. I don't understand that there's this long-winded like back and forth. Like, why didn't Ethan just be like, hey, do you guys want to come chat and like we could talk to you guys? Because Ethan doesn't really have a reason to hate. I mean, I don't think he does. I think he's just being lazy. Although it would be funny though. Hassan has a reason to not want to talk to Evan Preach. And that's specifically because they might Sam Cedar them, but with Destiny. And that would be kind of funny. And it would be kind of like just desserts for Ethan. So
these studies or things that have been debunked by other studies and most of the majority of the science and most of the government bodies. So it's like you're not even doing a service to your own cause. You're demanding and bludgeoning people over the head with guilt to follow what you believe. But you haven't actually taken the time to assess the criticism and be like, hey, if this criticism is here, how do I debunk it? And if you came to me with better arguments, I'd be open to it. But the truth,
well, Son has no argument against why trans women shouldn't be in sports. He just kind of bumbles around and like moves on.
this, even amongst left-leaning people and Democrats, a lot of them are actually against the trans women in sports, and it's because you haven't made compelling arguments. So that's your job. If you really believe in your cause, it shouldn't be to demand everyone change their mind. It should be on you to make ironclad arguments.
True. And actually, to talk about this, not for nothing, but like that's what an ally would do. I'm not an ally. I'm not going to say that. But here's the thing, and I don't think people understand this, okay? Here's a group. We'll call it G for group. We'll call it G unit. It doesn't matter if they're black or Hispanic, any person of color or gay or trans or any group of people. There are people that belong to that group. Right? Let's just use trans people in this case, right? So there's trans people, and trans people, check this out. I don't know if you know this. Trans people know they're valid, right? So trans people know they're valid, and then they say to people like, "Hey, I'm valid. I'm valid," right? I'll put a check mark instead of a V. I'm valid. All right, cool. There are some people who are not trans who are like, "Oh, that makes sense. Cool. That's cool." Right? It just makes sense to you. To you. You just have basic human empathy, right? You get it. And then there's some people where they don't quite get it, right? But then over time, they'll shift. So that would be like me. It took me a while to like kind of get it for a lot of these things. I'm a little more empathetic, you know what I mean? And then you get it, right? We'll say you get it. It's your responsibility when having like a conversation, when you're like this kind of a person. I'm not like an ally, but this is what your ally would do, is to try to better communicate with people who don't get it. Because like, that's kind of your job, right? It's not a trans person's job to sit here and try to explain the validity of them. But like if you're an ally and you're not trans and you can understand, because everybody has different like brain thoughts, you should be able to communicate it. Like everybody might have a different argument. For me, why trans people are valid to me is because like I respect mental health. I don't think it invalidates somebody to have any mental health issue whatsoever. Gender dysphoria is a mental health issue. It doesn't invalidate you or your identity. It is a classification for a particular thing that is considered incongruent in society. Like we categorize it as a mental, like in the DSM-5. It's just a categorization that exists that says, hey, you have something that makes you struggle. Let's help you with that struggle. What's the solution? If you have gender dysphoria, it is gender affirming care, which is individual based on what the individual person needs to make you valid. That's it. It's like, it's therapy, it's hormones, it's societal acceptance. And that's it. And we don't lose anything by having a trans woman be valid. Like, what do I lose? Oh, I can't tell if they might have a wee-wee. Okay. I can't tell if a cisgender woman's pussy smells, but you don't see me like, oh, I'm not going to date women. It's like I love mystery boxes, to be honest with you. So like, really, it's even better. We don't lose anything as a society. We don't. Oh no, the bathrooms, make them gender neutral. Who cares anymore? Like, really, who gives a shit anymore? All right, make them gender neutral. I don't care. It really doesn't matter. That's it. That's what validates individuals for me. They have a very deep, valid feeling. That's what made me go like, oh, trans people are valid. Maybe that resonates with you. Trans people probably wouldn't say that, but like I have a different brain thought. I'm like, oh, this is how my brain categorizes information. And as somebody who should be like an ally, you should be doing that. You should be trying to appeal to this because it's very personal. Could you imagine, all jokes aside, could you imagine a trans person trying to sit there and debate the validity of their entire happiness and existence? That's so much on the line with somebody who didn't believe that trans people were valid. It's hard. Like, I think it's hard for anybody to sit there and debate the validity of that. You know what I mean? It's a really difficult thing. Just imagine that's such a deep advocation that's probably mentally exhausting. And so for some trans people, they just can't, like, there's just like, that's too much. And that's normal. It's too much for any of us. So if you're not trans, but you understand the argument, like that's kind of your responsibility to be patient. You don't get to be as emotionally riled up over a lot of these issues as like a trans person, because you are supposed to be the one that's trying to be more better communicating this situation, because you're not so deeply invested that it hurts your soul to have the conversation, because that's what it can do to some people. Some trans people debating their validity, some gay people debating their validity, some black or Hispanic or any group of people debating their validity. That can be a really deep mental toll. And as somebody that doesn't identify with that particular identity, you should be like, you have more of a battery, because it doesn't drain your battery as much to talk about. Like, it doesn't, I care about trans issues, but I'm not invested in it personally. Like, what does it matter? If you made it illegal tomorrow, it has no impact on my life. And so like, I'm not going to get super offended by debating the validity of this thing, because I don't have a super deep personal connection. And that's something that Ethan and Hassan don't do effectively. You're supposed to be some form of advocates. You should be advocating correctly. It shouldn't be about trying to beat somebody over the head into submission. It should be about, how could I effectively communicate this to an audience of people who don't get it? And then try to recall a time in your life where you're like, I remember I didn't get it, and here's what helped me. That's what I would say. They're not very effective. So, it's really, if you want to be an advocate, it's your responsibility to stop being a goober poopy butt. Stop being a smelly wee-wee head. Stop being a picklehead. Then we're going to do that. We're using picklehead from now on, and we're going to see who starts using picklehead. And I'm going to see who watches Papa Gut content, or at the very least, how much of an impact I have on the social sphere. Right? So, there you go.
Well, you got a translucent fucking shirt on.
Huh?
Well, you got a translucent shirt on.
Is this translucent?
Yeah, it is.
Translucent. It just got holes. That's not translucent.
That's translucent.
That's not translucent.
That's translucent.
No, that's not what translucent means.
That's
you
translucent.
see fishnets and think that's translucent?
Yeah, that's translucent.
Okay, then.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Why you got a lace shirt on?
Wow, lace shirt.
That's lace.
Lace.
That's lace.
It's not lace.
You got
Ethan, it's not the last people who should be virtue signaling. Maybe. I think more than it is that this. I think that what we really need to be talking about is virtue bullying, and how incredibly is the word pervasive. I can't even spell pervasive. I don't know. Anyway, how up in the front it is. People are constantly taking issues and weaponizing them to hurt people. In general, on the internet, like, City by Karen called a huge racist. They try to get her to lose her job and her entire livelihood because of like an interaction that neither party is a horrible person for. Nobody actually cares. Most people who talk about that don't care about black issues. They just want to feel like justified in their hatred. So they make it a race issue when it's not one, so they could do that. I think some of that is some leftists when it comes to like some kind of like a social issue as well. They're like, oh, you disagree with me on this? Well, you know what? You're a fucking bad person, and I want to like hurt you in some capacity. Oh, you're just a centrist. Blah, 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 So
lace on. You got lingerie on.
Picklehead.
You got a lingerie shirt on.
Yo, bro, your shirt is see-through.
I didn't say see-through. Translucent and transparent are two different things.
Okay,
What is this conversation?
Translucent is that light goes through it. Transparent is that you see through it.
I thought it was just transparent. I just thought it was a good parent. Transparent. Just as good as anybody else.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, let's pull up the phone. I'm ready to.
What is this? What is this conversation?
That shit sounded kind of solid.
This whole entire thing is just translucent versus transparent. Okay, so that's the video. I think the point. Listen, I don't know because they haven't referenced it. But Abba and Preach removed their initial video on this topic a while ago. And frankly, if I had to make a guess, I would assume it's because I think that they just don't want to be part of this ridiculously stupid performative conversation. I could be wrong, but if you look, and I can go to my Discord, even now, the video doesn't say it was removed for a copyright. It doesn't say anything like that. Even now, it still says this video has been removed by the uploader. And if I had to guess, and I could be wrong, I think Abba and Preach are just doing it because they just want to be more mature. And I think I definitely can respect that if that's the case. It seems like maybe they don't want to be part of this like insane online, dumb, stupid fucking performative debate space where it's just dunk after dunk after dunk in this unnecessarily annoying and stressful situation. And I think that's why they removed their original video. I think that they're just like, yeah, I don't want to engage in it because it's stupid. Especially since at the end of the day, Abba and Preach are on their way up. and Ethan is on his way down. And allowing Ethan to grab onto them as he slowly falls further and further from, you know, credibility, respect, and grace is just going to have a negative impact on them. So, yeah, cool video.